So, welcome everyone. My name is Rich Sheffrin, and today we are talking about how you can see, profits that no one else sees. As I said, my name is Rich Sheffrin, and I do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m., Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m., both times Eastern. I'm like kind of fading in and out, I think, of like brightness and darkness. It's kind of weird. Not sure what that's all about. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about how you can recognize more profit opportunities in your business. And the reason why that is incredibly important is that, just do this really quick, save changes for now. The reason why that is so incredibly important is that most entrepreneurs that I've come across over the 20 years that I've been coaching entrepreneurs, most do not see most of the profit opportunities that are right there in front of them. Uh, and because of that, they don't leverage them. And because they don't leverage them, they don't enjoy the success that they could have had. So, yep, that's what we're going to talk about. And as I've said, my name is Rich Sheffrin. The name of my company is Strategic Profits. I've coached a lot of the well-known gurus that are out there and have helped companies like Agora Publishing and a bunch of others grow to immense size. So I'm considered by many to know what I'm talking about. So anyway, as I said in last week's live stream, and so this is or Tuesday's live stream, sorry, and now picking up today, I am talking about distinctions. And distinctions really are, they live in language and they determine what boundaries you see in the world and allow you to see things, be able to do things, right? And I gave the example about how that I don't know anything about trees. And if I walk through a forest, all I see are big and tall trees. But if I spent the day with a forester and they were to point out like all the different types of trees and which trees are great for making fire and which trees are best for shelter and which trees are best for whatever else, then every time I walk through a forest from that point forward would be very different than any time before that. And I'd be able to see things I didn't see before, and I'd be able to do things that I wasn't able to do before. And so, what I wanted to do today was kind of take that conversation a bunch further. In addition, I wanted to record a YouTube video at some point during today's conversation. So, as always, no matter where you're watching, if you can interact with us, that is greatly appreciated. So if you're watching on YouTube, please smash the like button and hit subscribe and hit, notify you for this way you'll know when we do more live streams. And if you're watching on Facebook, please also emote, comment, and join our Facebook group. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, please connect with us, or Periscope. I don't know why you're still watching on Periscope. And with all platforms, if you share, please let me know. Put hashtag shared in here. And this way I'll know that you shared and I can thank you for the heroic job of sharing that you just did. And I see that Sean Voss. Oh, no, I thought it was Sean Vossler in the house. It's actually Sean Mabry. So cool. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And as always, I would love it if we can make this as much of a dialogue and less of a monologue as possible. I'm going to pull up some stuff here in my notes so that we have stuff to cover. And then we will dive into this stuff. Uh-oh, something went wrong. Oh, okay. Something's going wrong with my Evernote. That's not as bad as like something going bad with the stream, which would be horrible, obviously. All right, so let's get this open here and let's see who's with us today. So we got, see, I'm very dark. What the hell is going on? What is interfering with my balance here? I can make myself brighter. It seems like the camera setting now is funky, doesn't it? I apologize, guys. Let me see what I can do to make this better. I'm probably going to make it too bright for me, but this seems better, right? I think it is. Whoa. Now it seems, it must be something with the autofocus. I must be doing something to the autofocus. I don't know what that is, though. All right. So it's good to see you, Jason, in Tampa, and it's good to see you, Ned, and thank you for sharing. And Daryl, as always, good to see you, and thank you for letting me know that you can hear me loud and clear. Wow. Yeah, now it's too bright, right? I just don't get it. Fire them up. I'm trying to, but first I got to fire up, don't I? Good to catch this one live. Good to see you, Go-Go. That's a cool name. Martin, good to see you, my man. And Sean, the email coach extraordinaire, email marketing coach extraordinaire, is in the house. Thank you for sharing, Sean. And now that I have my mouse and I have everything set up, I hopefully will not keep fading. That seems kind of weird. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing and sharing in the live event marketers group. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Martin. And hey, Lisa, good to see you in Miami Beach. Long time no see. Steve Barron, I'm going to try. Hey, oh, damn. Sorry, Ken. I got distracted, pulled away. And yes, but if you want to catch up on Zoom or something, we certainly can do that, Ken. Sorry about that. Hello, Tommy from Sweden. And hello, Dory, wherever you are on YouTube. And from Sweden. Cool. All right. So how many of you were here last when your new product available sounds exciting? Which new product are you talking about, Steve? All right, here we go. What is going on with my... Oh, that's why. I'm having a challenge with my... it seems like I'm having a challenge with everything today, doesn't it? I don't know what the hell is going on. All right, let's see. Try this one more time, guys. This might be a weird live stream. If I can't, I'm dealing with this camera that doesn't seem to want to stay at a certain lighting. And let's see, maybe go to this one and let's just see what we got going on here. I don't know what the hell is going on, guys. I apologize. I'm sure this is like super annoying to even watch too, because I'm not talking the whole time, which dead air sucks. And then also I'm fading in and out on the way that the camera is working, which is not good because I was planning on doing some recording tonight, which kind of sucks. Guru problems, right? All right. Jeez, guys. All right. So let's see. Is this my list of distinctions? Yeah. Okay. So total solution with 45 videos mentioned. All right. So I'm back here, guys. Sorry about that. All right. There we go. All right. When your new product is available, sounds exciting. I'm not sure what product you're talking about. Take note, Rich is powered by Monster Energy. Yep, definitely powered by Monster. Total solution with 45 videos was mentioned. I don't know about any total solution that has 45 videos. Maybe it's an affiliate promotion we're doing. Literally so excited to hear about this. I was here over an hour early, got to find out how to move out of a group two mentioned on Tuesday's episode. Very cool. Looks okay. It looks okay. Like right now, don't I seem like I'm in a very dark room? Like at this very moment? Like to me, what I'm seeing on screen is it looks what try a rain? Much better. I don't know what you're saying, Brian. Dark. Yeah. Okay. So it's not just me. Yeah. Extremely dark, right? Like, and it's not the lighting because the lighting seems to be right. So it's something with my camera getting funky. I have a different camera, so let's see. Maybe I'll switch cameras here. See if that makes the difference. Different view. Yeah, the entire feed wasn't right. We all know what you look like, though. I appreciate that. The entire feed is not right. Now it's dark. Let's party. Aperture. Yeah. Well, it's automatically adjusting, and I don't know what the deal is with that. Oh, Rain energy drink. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is brighter, but this is a different camera. Much better. Cool. All right. It mentioned it would customize to what the client needs, where, i.e., agencies. Oh, well, that's our system, but I don't know about only 45 videos. Brian, you don't look like Dark Shadows. Okay, cool. All right. So yes, I thought it'd also be good to to possibly look at the book notes of that book. Oh my God. This is happening again with Evernote. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Restart. See if this works. Yep. If I can't get my notes to pull up, this is going to be a problem. Let's see. And I just seems like I might need to upgrade something. It's been a crappy day too, guys. Like, I actually moved my other monitor here and I cracked it. It's like $1,000 monitor I cracked, which kind of sucks. And yeah, like all of a sudden I'm missing stuff here. But okay, let's see if I can get my book notes. If I can get my book notes and I can keep it up, then we're good to go and we will rock and roll. And I'm going to blow you away with this book because this really is one of the most impactful books I've read. It certainly is the most impactful book I've ever read as it relates to distinctions, but it's so much better than that. And I think that I'm actually excited to go through this with you guys. We're not going to get through all of it, and I'm going to have to dovetail into this. I think we'll take some tangents, but I think that this would be a cool thing to start with. So that's what I'm going to do. And I just want to open up the document that I have also. All right, there we go. All right, this might be easier to do, but screw it, because I need to get this in order. All right, so I'm going to share with you my notes from from the book Language and the Pursuit of Happiness by Calmer Brothers. And I have I just moved my book notes into Evernote for this book because I wanted to go over it with you guys. And so because of that, I decided that I would throw it in Evernote, but the formatting is not as clean. So I have both open. So, but I'm going to share the Evernote one, and we'll just make that Evernote one look as good over time, if that makes sense. All right. So I'm just moving my stuff around here so I know what the hell I'm looking at. All right. And now let's make this a little bit bigger because we can. Oh. And Evernote doesn't want me to, I can't move this now. What? Quit. All right. Let me just quit. Download a new, different version of. If someone were to ask me a question while actually, you know what? Screw it. I'll share from here, but I can't highlight from here, which really kind of sucks because I do want to do that. Damn. And now it's raining. Can someone ask me a question so I can answer it so I don't feel the uncomfortableness of standing in front of you guys with not sure what to say. Whereas if you ask me a question, then it's very clear. I know exactly what to say. All right, there we go. I just downloaded a new Evernote. So hopefully who's Superintendent Calmers? I don't know. Is that someone famous or something? Agree. I'm just installing a new version of Evernote. Hopefully this works, because I don't know why my old Evernote replace. All right, now let's go to this and open it and see what happens. Okay, there we go. All right. So, yes, I can. All right. If I bought Steal Our Winners annual and my grandfather didn't, your grandfather did for being able to buy annual again. I don't know. There will be a reset, and I'm not sure, but you will definitely have some kind of preferred status that you'll certainly be able to keep. It might and possibly discounted as well. But I don't know all the particulars yet, Kevin, because we're still figuring that out. Which I do a live Q&A tomorrow for the Infinity Funnel group, and so in the Infinity Funnel, I will be talking a lot about some of the big decisions that we have to make as a company, and really about whether or not our platform is going to be where we make the majority of our money, or is it going to be in subscriptions, credits, and stuff like that. My preference is the latter, because then that puts us in a place where we're very much aligned with our clients by trying to get them the most for the least, because the more interactions makes the platform better. And then it also makes us better partners for our contributors and partners, because if we're making money when they're making money, this son of a bitch. Okay, well, we're going to look at, I think what we're going to do today, guys, is because I'm struggling with tech so much, I do want to deliver something to you guys. I don't understand what the hell is going on with Evernote, though, and this really bothers me. But I do want to, I'll go to my other book notes, the ones that I generally, just my highlights of highlights, right? Just all the highlights from a book, which with this one, there was a lot. So we'll share that screen instead. And there we go. All right. Now that we can make a lot bigger. All right. So Language and the Pursuit of Happiness, Balcomer Brothers. That's the book that we're looking at. Okay. And now that I have this up, let's just see what you guys were talking about. Okay. Hello from South Korea. Well, hello, John Cho from South Korea. And we mentioned that. I do not know, but that's probably from some movie reference that I'm not getting. Where do you get these insights that speaks to such a large group of people in the industry? I read a lot. I talk to a lot of people, I guess. Those are the two primary things. Can you define what you mean by distinctions? Distinctions are concepts, right, that are more fully flushed out, that allow you to see things that without those distinctions, you would not be able to either see a difference where there is a difference, or therefore be able to capitalize on the difference. So let me kind of explain. Like I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, a chef. I'm the furthest that you could be from it. Although I make a great egg omelet, and my kids like my omelet better than anybody else's. So that's nice. But like, I really don't have much experience cooking. So like, when I think about turning on the burner for like cooking eggs, I think of like, low heat, high heat. That's really all, like, that's it. Just low, high. Right. But like, obviously, if I was a chef, there are many gradations of different levels of heat that would be ideal for cooking different things. I don't have those nuanced distinctions. I have gross distinctions, low, high, right? Because of that, I can only cook certain dishes, and I will never cook other dishes as well that require, more expert, adept handling. So experience and getting mastery, you often see that the distinctions that a person has, first of all, the number of distinctions will grow. But in addition to the number of distinctions growing, the distinctions themselves become more nuanced and more precise. And that therefore, that level of skill increases as the level of distinctions become more nuanced. And hopefully that makes sense. It's a heady concept, Mark, but hopefully I made that out from The Simpsons. Yeah, I love The Simpsons, but so long ago I forgot. I'm looking for a good solo ad provider. Are you looking for just someone who provides the ads, or are you looking for someone to run media? And how they differentiate from beliefs? Well, beliefs are totally different, right? I mean, because beliefs are this causes that, this equals that. Those are the structure of beliefs, right? Whereas with distinctions have nothing to do with what you believe and what you don't believe. It's what you see and what you don't see. Actual question from last time: how do you internalize knowledge based on other people's experience? How do you internalize knowledge based on other people? Right. So, how do you actually take a learning and have it impact you in a way where it's not just intellectual, right? But that you actually are impacted from an experiential point. And I would say that, like, I guess, Sean, for me, it goes both ways. Um, Oftentimes when I wrote all my free reports, like from 2006 to 2008, my goal was to lead people through certain experiences that I had that would therefore give them an experience and then also give them an epiphany and certain beliefs. And so I would do that by, following like screenwriting 101, right? Show and don't tell. I would be putting people into the story versus describing it, right? And I would say the other way, it's a exercise also in creativity and imagination, where if I want to internalize knowledge based on other people's experience, I want to play that movie in my head. In other words, close my eyes and pretend that that experience is happening to me. So I can practice what the right response is, what to notice for, what not to notice for. I don't know if that helps, Sean, but if it doesn't, then fire away and ask me more precisely. What's your thoughts on the impact of the Apple privacy and tracking changes on Facebook with emails? I think the impact is significant. I think that these are the big boys trying to impede each other's plans. Right now, Apple and Google are ganging up on Facebook. Um, at some point, it might be Facebook and someone else ganging up on one of the other ones, and in the process, it makes our lives much more difficult. Which was the whole reason that I did the CSIB campaign a year and a half ago, to kind of expose that to most people. What application are you transferring the book notes to Evernote from? I use SomeNotes, which takes anything, SomeNotes.com, which takes anything that you have highlighted and will pull it out. So that's what I take. That's what I use to get it out of a book. And then I used to put it in, well, I used to have a team do it for me and they put it into a Word doc and PDF and all that. Nowadays, I just use SomeNotes and I export it to a Word doc. And then I take that Word doc, it now goes into Evernote. But in the past, it would just turn into a PDF and a book and stuff like that. Me too, Davey Paul. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. What is one massive opportunity you found because of distinctions? Well, I would say that pretty much all the massive opportunities I have found have come from distinctions. So I don't know that that's a fair assessment, but right, like when I was exposed to, right, like the power of theory of constraints, I was blown away by it. So I guess like business optimization, like it caught my attention from there, right? Then I studied it. As I studied it, a lot of those kinds of principles became distinctions that of how I saw the world, right? And it helped me in my own business, like by exposing the constraints, but then it also helped me teach it. And when I taught it, obviously the level of my understanding greatly increased as well. But I would say that there isn't any opportunity that I have leverage that didn't come about in some way, shape, or form because of the distinctions I had at that time. And that's the bigger point here is that when you look at like a sale being made, what for your company, like what does that represent? Is a sale a like like let's say a front end sale? Is that sale like are you looking at that as a form of profit? Or are you looking at it as a getting of a customer? Like, what's the purpose of that first sale? Is it to make a profit or is it to get a customer? And how you look at that, right, will alter your behavior significantly. It will also alter what opportunities you see and don't see. So, right before I got on this call, on this live stream today, I was on a FaceTime with Matt. He's got eye surgery tomorrow, so he's got a tear duct that's jammed or something. So we hope that the surgery goes smoothly and easily for him. But we were talking about I was spending some time last night writing in my journal, and I thought I would start attacking like the problem of pricing as it relates to our new system. Like, what are we going to charge? And as I started writing my journal about this, what I realized pretty quickly was like before I can even clarify what we should charge, that the answer is going to be based on certain assumptions that I'm going to have to make. So the idea that like a business is just a set of assumptions and that the startup experience is more about validating and invalidating assumptions more so than it is to like have success or not success. It's more about understanding what assumptions you are making this whole model on and are they true or not. That came back to me right now. For many people, if they're not clear and they don't have the distinction that most businesses, when they first start, are just a set of assumptions, then like if they don't see the world that way, then they don't like that. Then what doesn't happen is what happened for me last night, which is like, okay, so I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the pricing structure, and the first question that I surface in my head is like, well, okay, so what's the assumption here? Am I assuming that most of our profit, like strategic profits, steal our winners, right? Do I believe that most of the profit from steal our winners is going to come from credits and subscription sales? Or do I believe that most of the profit is going to come from what happens on the platform? And that's going to be, and back ends and cross sells, is that going to be the, our core driver of profit? Now, based on the assumption of one or the other is totally going to alter like many elements of the business model. And so I would say that like just the idea that your business is built on a base of assumptions to me was exposes massive opportunity consistently for me, but also exposes potential challenges as well. So hopefully that helps give you some more clarity, Martin. Kind of like how a chess grandmaster looks at a board different than an amateur who just knows the rules. Totally, right? And if you could see, like, so apply that instead of chess to business. And understand that there are people that see business differently than you, and they see it differently than I. In fact, each of us see things differently. What we notice and what we notice for and what we don't notice are all going to be different. And because of that, since what we notice is different, what we therefore do is different, right? What we see as our options are different. So there would be many people who were in my shoes, like back in 2006, who would not think like, oh, okay, I'm going to write a report. It's going to be high value. People will love it. There'll be an expensive program behind that. And that's all I need. I don't need any front end products. I don't need any mid-tier products. I don't need any of those. Like in order to come up with that, like I had to see the rules of the game differently than probably most people. And I want you to like kind of, if you can, because I think it'll be helpful for anyone watching this, to kind of think about like me in 2006, right? Like the free model hadn't been really introduced. Like, and I was connecting points of data, right? One point of data was what Dan Kennedy said, which is you take your best ideas from your coaching program and you put that in your front end product, because that's what's going to get people to want to buy your coaching program after you sold them the front end product. And that made sense to me. But at the same time, like I had started blogging and I could see that my content would, like, when I wrote a good piece, could go pretty far. So the idea of writing a report and putting it on my blog, like that's how these things started to come together. But, you know, I was talking about this. I don't know where I was talking about this. I think I was in a Q&A like at the Mimosa Mastermind, but it might have been somewhere else. And I guess that's irrelevant anyway. But I believe that there's levels of the game, Kenneth, of the game of business, where, like, you know, the first level that, you know, most people can make pretty effectively, right, is recognizing, like, as you go from like a business of you to a business that you're running, how much of the business, like stuff that needs to get done for the business, is not your to-do list, it's the business's to-do list, and that your to-do list and the business's to-do list are two separate things. That is an evolution for many entrepreneurs. I think there's another level. There are many levels above that, where you're no longer looking at, like, I don't know how to send an email in Infusionsoft. I don't need to know that in order for my business to grow. But there are levels of what understanding you need. And I think at higher levels, you need less specific understanding, more general understanding. And so there are people who can make businesses work by just kind of putting pieces together. And then there are entrepreneurs who need to kind of put every piece together themselves. And then there are people who can do it with a team. And so there are these different levels of like how you see jobs getting done, how you can leverage other people's effort, money, talent, skills, etc. And all of these kind of are, they're out there in the world, but how you perceive them and how you can potentially leverage them is very dependent on your perspective about them. And that's all dependent on the distinctions you have. So hopefully, as I kind of talk around this, this makes more sense for you. I'm looking for someone that has good solo list providers whose lists perform. You can go to Listmark, right? Listmark, I think that's who they shared. Thanks, Matt. The power of three riches are way better with 12 offers in the range of 3 to avoid cannibal. The power of 3, Rich. Are we better with 12 offers in the range or 3 to avoid cannibalization? I'm not sure what you're asking me there, Steve. Yeah, I'm not sure, like, because the offer thing throws me. Who's the smartest? Well, that's a random question. How do you define smarts? Is smarts like brain clocking speed? Is it memory of lots of facts? Like, I've met a lot of different people who have had a lot of different intelligence. Most people I meet, my brain clocks faster than them. I notice when someone's brain clocks faster than mine, and Michael Cage is someone whose brain clocks faster than mine. So Michael Cage definitely ranks up there, but I've met a ton of people smarter than me, that's for sure. I would think that probably the most important distinction that is probably even, well, you know what? Probably the answer to that question would be a statement that Joe Schriefer shared with me that he learned from Addison. But I think I've lived my life this way, like, since the beginning, and I think it's probably more responsible for my success than anything else. And that is that you learn a lot more about a person at the end of a relationship than you ever do at the beginning of a relationship. And so I've tried to hold myself to a very high standard at the end of relationships. And I think that that has served me incredibly well. Hey, John. under your interview with them. Thank you, sir. I think it's going to be amazing. Well, John, keep me posted. I definitely want to hear about how it goes for you and how you're able to translate what you're learning there for your own business as well. I'm loving this talk about assumptions in new business. Is highly relevant to me right now. Very cool. How do you think generational gaps impact distinctions? Well, I think that, yeah, I think collectively we probably have like distinctions defined by our generation. And that's an interesting question. Never really thought about that, but I imagine it has significant impact on which distinctions we share and which ones we don't. This is type of metacognition that is the highest value to entrepreneurs, seeing your own assumptions and presumptions. I find this very difficult myself. Well, like, you're always making assumptions about like whether prospects that you can get in front of enough prospects through a specific channel that they'll respond to your offer. You're making assumptions every step of the way, right? Now the question is like, is this the best offer that we can possibly make, or not? Is this the best channel we can be using or not? And like, to do that, to do that, I think I think everyone can identify the assumptions they're making if they spend some time just kind of reflecting on, it's like as I started thinking about pricing, right? It's like, okay, well, what's the goal? What should my goal be of pricing, right? Like as I'm now going to work on this, is my like I guess for some people their immediate thing would be like, how do I maximize income? But that once again doesn't really address the issue, right? Because like, well, where is that income going to be made? Or am I trying to price this so that like I make most of the money when people are buying and like using credits? Or am I trying to build this so that I'm trying to get people to buy and use lots of credits all the time because I want to produce more data because the data is going to make us profitable? Two totally different decisions of which path to go down. But if I'm not checking my assumptions and asking myself, what am I assuming before I try and solve any problem, or before I try and tackle any issue or obstacle, if I'm not asking myself what assumptions I'm making, then odds are I am being maybe a little bit more closed-minded and a little bit narrow focused with maybe too much like blinders on at the beginning, where I should be more diffused in the beginning. You just mentioned putting your report on a blog. Following your talk with Rhonda Swan, if you were distributing your special reports today, would you put them on an ungated blog? Well, my blog wasn't gated, but I mean, you had to opt in to get the report. I would, Leon, what I think I would do is, I would try to do everything in my power. Well, one, if I were to distribute them today, I would probably give it away without even having people opt in, but I'd have something very desirable that related to, so that anyone who actually read it would want the thing that I'm talking about and would opt in for that. So I'd have a list of people who actually read it. And I would try and make the deal with the reader up front about like, my goal is to provide you tremendous value here. So you do two things. One, you refer it to friends because you really believe it could help them. And two, that you opt in to get this other thing, because then I'll know that you have read this and you're the exact type of person I want to talk to. Now, I'd also put that message out, though, in as many other formats as possible: audio, podcast, webinar, YouTube video, you name it, I would try and do it. And so that would be the biggest difference. I just wouldn't, I was at the right time at the right place with an approach that hadn't been done before. And so it worked really well. And as you can kind of see, like even with what I'm working now with the Infinity Funnel, I generally work on things that people have not done before in our space. And that is partly because I read a lot and I study a lot and I work with a lot of big companies. And so that gives me the ability to have certain distinctions of seeing things that other people don't see, which is why like talking to everyone about distinctions gets me excited, because it's really one of the reasons I'm able to do what it is I'm able to do. Say you had 3 products, very focused. Would more clarity be there to choose as applies to overwhelm with 12? Well, look, if Steve, if there's no greater distinction between the 12 and the 3, then yeah, then you're better off having 3. But if each of the 12 deal with a very specific problem and have a very specific outcome, the 12 wouldn't be confusing. It would be like, it'd be easy for people to select and get exactly what they want. So, that's where I'm being thrown a little bit by your question, Steve, because it's not as simple as just 3 or 12. It really kind of depends on what are those 3, what are those 12, and does the increase to 12, are you being more precise, or is there more overlap? If there's more overlap, that will lead to more confusion. If there's less overlap because you're being more precise about very specific things, right? Then, there's a difference between, time management, right? Time management for people just starting an online business, time management for an entrepreneur who's scaling an online business. Like, these would be very different. And therefore, if you had them like at successive stages, that wouldn't be confusing at all. If people would really quickly see where they stood. So that's, I guess, Steve, where I'm coming from. Do you think it's okay to jump levels as an entrepreneur, skipping in the weeds phase and jumping more into the manager or leader of a business, like you were just talking about on levels of business? Of course I do. And, it's one of the things, right? Like that for me, like I skipped a bunch of levels, right? There was never really a time. I mean, I guess when I had my parenting niche stuff, I did grow a list and I did like the incremental approach, and my business grew incrementally. But when it came to me teaching marketing and business growth, I kind of didn't go through that same process. I skipped a lot of steps because it just helped me get to where I wanted to get to faster, right? By finding those shortcuts, marquee clients, partnering with people like who would get me more exposure, etc. Distinctions also help us stand out. That's totally true. Totally true. All right. So let's get to this by Calmer Brothers. Okay. An introduction to an emerging, can you guys read this? Let me know. An introduction to an emerging way of thinking, a new way of understanding ourselves, our language, and our ways of learning, growing, and relating to each other. First of all, we do not live our assumptions as assumptions. We live them as that's the way things are. Remember, these are just the things I highlighted from the book. This forces us to go through a reflective process that is not only intellectually challenging, but also emotionally demanding. We must first identify our assumptions that are hidden in the transparency of living. Then we must confront the rest of our thinking is congruent with these assumptions. The confrontation, being forced to revise many realms of our understanding, can make us feel like we're in free fall. Secondly, the simple ideas that truths that I have known all my life can be superseded by other beliefs is, to say the least, threatening. Therefore, we fall into a tendency to oppose change, to seek refuge in some unquestionable and final truth. The fundamentalist in us is awakened. This is the case for the fundamental assumptions we have about human language as a descriptive, consensual code and a passive phenomenon. And the inability to change these particular assumptions has resulted in great cost for humanity. We have not been able to tap consistently into one of the most powerful self-transformational forces available to us. This began to change during the linguistic revolution that took place in philosophy at the beginning of the last century. The English philosopher J.L. Austin began a critical revision of those assumptions. Today, he defined it with, I think he called it speech acts. Anyway, or that was Searle that came after him, who learned from Austin. Today, we realize that language is not only a descriptive phenomenon, as unquestionably it is, but it is also a generative and active one. It is an essential element in the constitution of the observer. We are, through the power it grants us to make distinctions. Okay, so this is why. And by enabling us to make things happen, to alter the world in which we participate. I've been an ontological coach for over 25 years. I know the power of language, not from an intellectual approach, but from a recurrent encounter with people who attend my programs in pursuit of learning that goes beyond gathering information or conquering effective action. So, what connections can we make between language and living, between language and being, between language and happiness? Let's start by realizing that we live in language as fish live in water. It's transparent to us. It's not that we don't know that we speak and listen, but rather that we are unaware that language is shaping the world as we see it. When we see the sky after an astronomer shares with us distinctions about celestial bodies, we are able to see what we were unable to see before that conversation. We see galaxies, planets, and satellites, where before there were only a bunch of stars. This happens to us all the time when we engage in conversation with people who share with us distinctions that we did not have before. Why do those things appear to be obviously there now, but were not there a few seconds ago? How much am I unable to observe because I lack distinctions? What might I be missing? How does all this affect my possibilities for action? Of course, I can't intervene in a world that I don't see. We also live with the illusion that we have conversations when in reality, most of the time, our conversations have us. We belong to historical discourses, old cultural and societal narratives that have a hold on us. Waking up to the fact generates a freedom that's unimaginable before the experience. Okay, and so what we're talking about there is kind of like what Heidegger talks about as far as thrownness, right? Like that, like when you or I showed up, human beings were already here doing what human beings do, and we kind of fell into that. So we had options, right? But we weren't starting from scratch and we didn't have a world of possibilities. We had options, we had choices, or at least that's what it felt like. But we can remove ourselves from that, which is what this guy's talking about. Okay. The way to happiness requires a process of initiation, a reflection that allows us to see that most of the time, what we call my thinking is nothing more than a historical burp. And to notice that the claim, that's the way I am, isn't rooted in any biological or physiological fact. Instead, these points more to our having participated in a lifelong interpretive path that we did not personally or consciously choose. As Heidegger would say, it's more accurate to say that we find ourselves thrown into the particular conversations we're living in. Becoming aware of this opens the door to a new way of learning, a new set of choices, an entirely different set of possibilities. Finally, let me say that language lives braided with emotions. Language is never isolated, never separated from the world of moods and emotions. There's no such thing as unemotional thinking or unemotional conversing. Our every internal and external conversation is already coming from a particular emotional space, as well as holding the built in potential to impact and change the emotional state of others. Emotions are predispositions for action. That is, they have the result of predisposing us towards certain actions and away from other actions, right? And we have already learned language is action. It's clear that our moods and emotions are tremendously important in shaping and creating the world we have right in front of us, as well as our ability to adapt, change, and learn. They are tightly connected to language in some obvious and some not so obvious ways. So, introduction, let's have a conversation, and maybe a different conversation about happiness. The notion of exploring is a perfect way of describing what I believe to be the best to move through this book. Exploring the sense of setting out on a path, not knowing exactly where you're going to end up, and being willing to at least start the journey anyway. That's the entrepreneurial path right there, right? Exploring in the sense of setting out on a path, not knowing exactly where you're going to end up, and being willing to at least start the journey anyway. Exploring as moving into and through some uncharted territory and opening yourself up to learn about it. And exploring as being willing to temporarily suspend what you know about something because you're aware that doing so is a prerequisite for being truly open to new and presently invisible possibilities and opportunities. In these sorts of ways, my invitation to you is to come exploring with me. William James suggested much of the same when he said, how to gain, how to keep, and how to recover happiness is, in fact, for most men at all times, the secret motive for all they do and for all they're willing to endure. And the Dalai Lama, in his 1999 book, Ethics for the New Millennium, offers his perspective, which to me is also a solid place from which to begin. He says, for my part, meeting innumerable others from all over the world and from every walk of life reminds me our basic sameness as human beings. Indeed, the more I see the world, the clearer it becomes that no matter what our situation, whether we are rich or poor, educated or not, of one race, gender, religion, or another, we all desire to be happy and to avoid suffering. Our every intended action, in a sense of our whole life, how we choose to live it within the context of the limitations imposed by our circumstances, can be seen as our answer to the great question which confronts us all: how am I to be happy? This book is built on around the following two major claims. One, a new understanding of language provides a new foundation, a starting point, a new set of options, and a new set of tools that for those of us seeking to design more happiness and fulfillment into our lives. This new way of understanding language directly connected to a new way of understanding ourselves, a new way of understanding human beings, and it is here that things get really interesting. In this book, I will share with you a different and powerful way of thinking and observing. I will show you how language is the key to unlocking a new kind of understanding of yourself, your relationships, your effectiveness, and your results. In a tremendously wide variety of areas, I will show you ways in which language is directly connected to your ability to design your own life and manage your own moods. For our purposes, let's define happiness in a simple way. Moving forward, when we say happiness, we'll be talking about one or both of the following: peacefulness, productivity. Within these pages, we'll say that happiness equals achieving some balanced combination of peacefulness and productivity. Peacefulness includes the qualitative side, the subjective nature of your experience as you do what you do. It includes your emotional space, the degree to which your experience, the degree to which you experience and don't experience suffering or happiness or satisfaction or dissatisfaction in an ongoing way. And productivity includes the quantitative side, the objective, getting things done, making a contribution, real world, tangible results side. Happiness, as used within these pages, involves both. The central claim of this book is that a new understanding of language provides an incredibly powerful foundation from which to achieve this balance. This new approach is directly and immediately valuable in three primary ways: our personal lives for us as individuals, our relationships, personal and professional, and our effectiveness in any leadership role that we assume in our lives. This is where it all starts, because seeing new possibilities is always the first step towards producing new results. We may have had, when we were younger, a mental picture of what we thought it would take to make us satisfied, peaceful, productive, happy. And now, when we've actually achieved and acquired these things, we find something missing and we say that we're not happy. That was the place I found myself in about 10 years ago. Is there a way that we may design our lives so that we may include real balance, satisfaction, peace, effectiveness? That is happiness. The Dalai Lama and many others who have traveled extensively have come to a similar and perhaps surprising view. Those of us living in the materially developed countries, for all our industry and new technology, are in some ways less satisfied, less happy, and to some degree suffer more than those living in less materially developed countries. What this book is all about is sharing with you a new place to look in our search for what we call happiness. In my experience, this way of seeing things is definitely not part of the mainstream curriculum. I have come to believe that one of the main reasons that many of us have not been finding the experience of happiness is that we've been looking in the wrong places. In many ways, we've been looking through language and taking it for granted, as do what we do, living our lives. Here we're looking at language instead. And this, to put things simply, changes everything. This is not a book of tips and techniques, and it's not a how-to manual. Although I promise, and I know this is a big promise, that you will absolutely be able to do things that you are not able to do as a result of practicing what you learn here. And that's really the promise of learning any new distinction, right? That you'll be able to do things that you cannot do right now. And one more big promise I make to you: that's that what is within these pages can support you in more effectively and successfully using any and all self-improvement, relationship improvement, leadership improvement approaches on the market. I say this because what I will share with you is a level underneath all of those. And by shifting our perspective here, we suddenly make visible new sets of possibilities for use within any and all frameworks. We suddenly make visible entirely new sets of options, new sets of choices, and we also gain an understanding of why one approach or another actually works. But here's the kicker, and this is key. When we start taking a new look at language in this way, it quickly becomes apparent that what we're also doing is taking a new look at ourselves, a new look at human beings, like what it means to be a human being. And this, to me, is where things get exciting. Said another way, what's within these pages will most certainly enable you to be more effective in virtually every aspect of your life. But if we limit our attention to effectiveness, we'll truly miss the larger point. We miss the whole shift in perspective. The more important change in how we're defining and understanding ourselves to be that makes effective possible in the first place. What it does mean is that I am far more conscious about my role in creating my experience about tools available to me to design something different should I so choose. Are you interested in learning how to dramatically influence in a number of positive ways the quality of your journey wherever your journey takes you? It's a privilege to share this with you from Calmer Brothers, Naples, Florida. A word about paradigms. The following chapter contains a series of interpretations that I'm offering to you as they were offered to me. I am not claiming that they are the right way or the only way or the truth about those things. I think it's more accurate to say that taken collectively, they do represent a new paradigm. To me, a paradigm may be defined as a way of understanding, believing, and taking action that I operate out of that allows me to produce certain results. And over time, our paradigms can slide to the background of our thinking to the point where we don't see them as ways of understanding, believing, and taking action anymore. Rather, we begin to see them as the way of understanding, believing, and taking action. We begin to take our particular paradigms for granted as if they are the truth and the obvious or natural order of things, and greatly limits our possibilities, right? That is so true. In fact, paradigms may also be defined as a way of understanding, believing, and taking action that I've operated out of for so long that I now think it's the truth. Oh, my daughter's calling me. I will remind her that I do my live streams. Hey, baby, I'm on my live stream. Okay, love you. Talk to you later. Bye. That's my daughter that's working for Barstool now, which I'm very excited, or interning for Barstool at Syracuse University. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, it's like, why am I able to spot opportunities for my clients to profit that they don't see? Because I'm operating in a different paradigm than they are. And their paradigm has them so locked in, right? Paradigms are incredibly important for all of us at home, at work, and everywhere because they serve as the mega context, right? The background, the major assumptions about how things are that are behind and underneath all of our actions, interactions, and choices. And out of our actions and interactions and choices, we produce the results we produce for ourselves and the world in a wide variety of areas. Our paradigms in the background, of course, greatly influence what actions we take and how we take them. They influence what we see when we open our eyes, the choices we make, how we make them, the things we do, how we do them, and the results we get and how we get them. Paradigms exist everywhere and are usually harder for the people within them to see than for those outside the particular culture or tradition or time frame. Below is a key observation that may be obvious, but is important for where we are going. Our paradigms are not permanent forever and always. The term paradigm shift was invented to describe this movement away from one paradigm and toward another. The shifting of awareness or learning or experience that causes a few people at first, then larger numbers of people later to drop one way of seeing and adopt another. This process of including and transcending is at the heart of all learning and evolving, and it's occurring in virtually every aspect of our lives. Let me now share with you a traditional paradigm that we'll be dealing with and shifting away from in this book. Below is the orientation that most of us are very familiar with and may even take for granted. Language is a tool for communication and for describing how things are. To fully understand language, one must be primarily involved with grammar, sentence structure, subject, nouns, verbs, pronouns, participles, and or particles, participles, and so on. What I'm up to within these pages is to share with you an alternative view, a complementary view, a different set of underlying assumptions and implications about language. As I've come to understand them, paradigms are not good or bad, right or wrong in and of themselves. They just are. Now, some are clearly more effective in allowing us to achieve certain kinds of results than others. Some are clearly more factually accurate representations of the physical world, as our science currently understands it. But this isn't how many of us hold our paradigms. No, many of us are immediately thrown to questions of good versus bad, right versus wrong. It's also been my experience that in great many situations, we have not collectively agreed upon what constitutes rightness and wrongness, truthness and falseness. But this doesn't stop us in the least from using right and wrong orientation. What if we instead began to orient ourselves with questions that are more directly connected to results? That is, what if we ask the following sort of questions instead? What possibilities for action and therefore what possible results come out of seeing things this way versus that way? What does this way of thinking, this paradigm or that paradigm, help me in being able to do? What would happen if a great many people adopted this way of thinking or that way of thinking? What would be the relationship impact and the collective impact on how we live and work together? Instead of right or wrong, I think works doesn't work grid is far more powerful framework for moving through this book. I'm not claiming what's here is right and that other ways of looking at things are wrong. I'm not claiming that I've got understanding and that people who have different ways of looking at these topics have misunderstanding. I am claiming, however, that the concepts and distinctions within this book will allow you to design your own life, create healthier relationships, improve your ability to lead effectively, and support a healthier balance of peacefulness. All right. This is, again, this is all about how the book is structured, which, okay. So I could go on. I don't think I want to tonight particularly, and I imagine you don't want me to just read to you the whole time, although Kim likes me reading to her. She says it helps her fall asleep at night. So that's interesting. Let's see if I can change back the camera here for a second. There we go. And I'm not fading. Maybe it's fixed. Probably isn't. Let's see what you guys have to say. Let me remove this, get this out of the way. There. And see what you guys have to say. Talked about assumptions in business strategy. It reminded me of this quote I clipped from the Agora's Big Black Book. It's not intelligence that prevails, but efficient trial and error. Right. It's not the strongest. It's the most, it's those that have the best ability to adapt, right? That's what we learn from nature. Wow, this was actually the exact literature that I needed to consume right now in the process of creating some pillar content, and this is a great pre-frame for it. Well, glad to hear that, Jason. So I've studied 6 languages, and every single time I'm amazed at how different cultures attempt to communicate the same concept. The language itself has assumptions from the culture that birthed it. Totally agree. And there I go, going dark again. And now I'll get brighter again over time. So weird. David Foster Wallace and his This Is Water Talk sensitized me to this forever. Our deepest assumptions misunderstood as the way things are. Language as maybe the primary tool for resetting our way of seeing is a profound idea. It truly is. And it's why this book is one of my favorite books. What we're reading is Language and the Pursuit of Happiness by Calmer Brothers. Hey, well, Michelle, then I should get you my notes on it. Because this literally is one of my favorite books of all time. I don't recommend it enough because, you know, when people are asking me about books, it really depends on what they're interested in. But like if you're interested in transformation or the impact that if you're willing to look at the idea that how you perceive things radically changes pretty much everything in your life, and the opportunities you see and versus don't see, whether you see something as a slight or not. Um, all of these things are very dependent on the distinctions that we have, which build up to create a paradigm or a mental model. And so this, yeah, it's why it's one of my favorite topics, period. Language in the pursuit of happiness. Yeah. There's a power follow-up on distinctions conversations. I'm obsessed with ways of seeing questions and illuminations, like why the ancients didn't see the color blue till relatively late, and the distinctions of how many greens the Himba perceive and have. Those are interesting, Gogo, but like I think like if you only think about it that way, you're looking at it as an exercise that maybe does not apply as much to you as it really does, right? Because it applies to each and every one of us. And so I'm saying, right, that like if I was sitting in your shoes, Gogo, like I would see different opportunities than you see. Some we'd both see, right? They'd overlap. But then I would see ones that you do not see, and it would be based on everything that I'm bringing to the table. You would see ones maybe that I don't see based on your experience, right? So it's not an it's the Eskimos have 38 words for snow, not because they're really anal about snow. It's that they do different things with snow. And so they need those words to define, like, snow that's really good for packing and building something like an igloo or whatever, versus snow that is really good for walking on or whatever else. Right. And so it's every definition, like, with 38 words for snow, it's not because they live in snow. It's because they have stuff to do. And because they have stuff to do, they have to differentiate. And so with you, right, you have to generate profit in your business. And you see like 3 ways to generate that profit, right? Whereas maybe someone who's more experienced might see 20 ways, right? Maybe someone who's been involved in company after company after company, has ridiculous, could see 100 different ways. You only see the 3, right? I hope what I'm saying lands, because if it lands, like what that should immediately, like what should register is that, holy shit, what that means is that when it comes to like getting what it is I want, when it comes to getting rid of the problems I have, there are literally many, many, many more options than what I believe I currently have are actually out there to solve that problem, to get to that goal, etc. Right. And that we all do this, that we all get locked into a certain set of assumptions that has us looking one way. It's kind of like, connecting the 9 dots, right? And everyone kind of stays within the box. But if you kind of think about the lines extending past the box, you can connect all the lines, right? With however many, straight lines. Hopefully everyone knows that what I'm talking about, and they're not like 9 dots box, but to draw outside the box, right? So that's the point, right? That, one, right, from everything that everyone does, there's always a positive intent behind, right? Like, so no one is purposely generally doing something just to hurt you. Generally, they're doing what they think is best for them, whatever. So it's about recognizing that, breakdowns in communication as well as breakdowns in getting results more often than not can be attributed to limited perspectives, which cause limited options, which then cause like not necessarily picking the best one. And and this is why, like, even though this conversation, like, I'm referencing this book on that's Language in the Pursuit of Happiness, but it's the same conversation, right? Even when I was talking about my conversation with Matt right before I got on this live stream about like what assumptions are you making about how we make our profit to come up with a pricing model, because like to me the pricing model changes very dramatically depending on what assumptions. And like I think before I asked that question, there was assumptions being made by anyone who was thinking about, my company was thinking about price, but they weren't highlighting and revealing what assumptions they were making. which totally therefore would limit the options they see. I like, let me know if this makes sense. If it makes sense, then I'm happy. All right, let's see here. I'm just going back. All right. Okay, that's one. Okay, thanks. Rich, what in your view is the quickest way to become a copywriter, and is it worthwhile skill to learn with the development of AI like Jarvis and Copy Pro? Which one do you prefer or recommend? I've used Jarvis more, so I will say that. I don't know if I can say one is better than the other because I haven't used both enough to say that. But what I would also say though is that that I think the skill of being a copywriter, learning that skill is always going to be incredibly valuable. I think it is the reason why, like, when I really focus on something, I can make a really good presentation or I can write a really good report. And it's because, for a certain amount, at least, a certain amount of that has to do not with me fading in and out of lighting, but of it has a lot to do with my understanding of copywriting. I think, you know, I'm not sure what the best way, like, for you to learn copywriting is. For me, the best way was to listen to lots of sales letters. I would record them. I'd record my favorite ones and then listen to them over and over again. I read all the classics, and then it's about writing copy. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to write, and it's a skill, and it only gets better with practice. Gone Dark. Yeah, I know. In high school, I read Language and Thought in Action. I love that book. That's a great book, Ned. For me, that book by, is it Hiawatha? I thought it was Hiawatha, not Hayakoa. But anyway, for me, Ned, that book really helped me understand why small talk wasn't bullshit, and like the importance of small talk, and how it was really a social lubricant, and saying obvious things actually lets one another know, like, we're okay and we can have other conversations. And I didn't really understand that until I read Language and Thought in Action by I think it's Ayahuasca. And so I love that book. And actually, that book has been helpful to me in helping many clients who also would think like small talk is like a waste of time and shit like that. Like, I would refer them to this certain section in that book. So thanks for bringing that up, Ned. Sorry I'm late. Too many Zoom rooms and live streams. I totally get it. Michelle, I want it to be one of mine, not the stuff that, like, I want us to go over some of the stuff I've written first. But I will share my notes with you for sure. Curious, is there a natural framework that explains the phases of greater paradigm shifts in culture, like the adoption curve, where there are innovators, early adopter, masters? Maybe, yeah, there are. The areas that I like, so you might want to look at, like, spiral dynamics is one that you might want to look at. And then the spiral dynamics is based on, oh, I forget the guy's name. It says, like, taught at Astor College. Claire Graves. Claire Graves, and it was about the different levels of evolution, and this is all based on the idea that, like, there are many levels past self-actualizing. They, like, people took the work of Maslow further, that there were many levels past self-actualizing, that once you know, because, you know, you had those other needs prior, right? Like safety and, you know, protection, food, etc. But at the top level was self-actualization, but there were many other levels beyond that for as society continues to evolve. So they're like, you could almost think of it as like there's a bunch of people clustered as 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and they're moving through time. And as they move through time, the 2s might become 3s, like, and like the whole of society kind of moves. So yes, Claire Graves, spiral dynamics would be the two things I would look at. The Way of the Dolphin. That's another one of those books. But interesting area. Everyone also needs to read The Fourth Turning to see what's coming. Okay. I'm not sure if yes, I've read that. The paradigms in our political scene certainly support the stultification of ideas. Yeah, no doubt. Definitely. I get it. I just geek out on the surface stuff. LOL. Well, that's cool. But, recognize where it's most powerful is applied to self, right? So if you can see how powerful it is by looking out, recognize that when applied inward, it's really powerful. And I would say, it's probably one of the reasons why people think I'm a good thinker is that at the end of the day, one of the distinctions from the lean startup world is that a business is just a set of assumptions, right? So when I look at a business, I'm looking for the assumptions, as I'm talking to the entrepreneur about what they're making, what assumptions are they currently making that has them locked into a certain perspective, and what is that preventing them from seeing that I already am seeing? Those are the kind of questions as a consultant or coach that I'm asking myself, right? This is such great information. My business partner of 20 plus years was one of the creators of NLP with Bandler. Oh, was it, what's the other? Rinder? Over the years, language has helped me generate over $1 billion. Well, that's awesome. Did you manage to tap into happiness after integrating the teachings? I am a much happier person, but that has a lot more to do with me figuring out what makes me happy. And I think I shared this last week or last Tuesday, just 2 days ago, that what I discovered about myself was that I am most happy when I'm in pursuit. And there are times in my life when I've had nothing to pursue. And then I've been very unhappy and unfulfilled and didn't know what to do. I don't know if that is good life advice. Maybe I need to be in pursuit because I'm running away from something. I don't know. But that's what works for me. So for me, I am happy as long as I have a target. And it really doesn't matter what the target is, as long as the target is exciting for me. And it doesn't even matter if I get there. All that is important. My life seems to work when there's a place I want to get to. And my life doesn't seem to work, a place that's exciting to get to so that I want to get there. And my life doesn't seem to work when that doesn't exist. All right, let's see. Yeah. My encounters with malignant narcissists have shown me that some people do have bad intentions. Well, they don't care about the ramifications, but their intention is not necessarily they have to get some pleasure out of it. And most people don't. The overwhelming majority of people don't get pleasure out of hurting other people in and of itself. They might not have a problem hurting someone to get some other end result, but the end result is not the hurting of the person. The forms of thought are, in the first instance, displayed and stored in human language. Yep. Copywriting is one thing. Thinking in copy is priceless. Good point, Sean. Pepper Type AI is on AppSumo, and it's amazing. Oh, is that a copywriting tool? I will check it out if it is. Does anyone know? And I guess let me just go to AppSumo, make a note of it at the very least. AppSumo. You guys, all right. Good to see you here, Sean. We could title this "The Illumination of Rich Efron" or the de-illumination, right? Something to consider. AI is mostly designed to write copy for existing, well-established offers. The more new and unique your offer, the more you'll need fresh, aka human written copy. That's a good point. And right now I couldn't imagine copy, any of the copy tools, being able to really create the logic for to sell something and create a new blue ocean or to create new demand. I think that's still a skill that AI tools can't do yet. Good to see you here. I noticed your image gets darker but lightens as you move around. Yeah, is that what it is? Huh. Yeah, something's weird on my camera. I'll have to figure that out. Dr. Claire Graves. That's the person. Spiral dynamics was an integral part of my previous identity mentor. I think it's because of autofocus. It must be. And I don't know what I did wrong to it, so I'm going to have to fix it. Rich, do you know, familiar with Dan Holdings and Jason Fladline? I'm not sure what you're asking me, Amit. Like, I know Jason Fladline. I'm not sure what you're asking me, though, about Jason. Here in Toronto, we call snow, and we have too much of it. Yeah, because it's just in the way, right? So, cool. Move a little to the left. Well, my left? My right. Now, if I don't move from here, do you think it just stays at this brightness? Is it my movement and which lights are hitting it? Eh? Well, just so you guys know, this is my left. I don't know which side you see it on. Yeah, so look, if I don't move, does it not change? I did move my camera a little bit. Maybe just that movement of the camera? How bizarre. Yeah. James, thank you. I am being very still. All right, guys. So like I said, I think we'll end early today, but I did want to let me give you another example, and let's go over a few different ones. Okay. So there is I don't know if I coined this or I learned it from someone. Doesn't matter. But I introduced the market to this concept of just-in-time learning versus just-in-case learning. And once you understand that distinction, you look at learning opportunities differently than you do before you have that distinction, right? Because before that distinction, at least for myself, all learning is good learning, right? But then learning, like just in case learning, should never precede just in time learning, right? And there should be more deference to just in time learning. And that just in time learning oftentimes comes from action. Just in case learning often comes from passive activities. So, once you have that distinction, just like you have the distinction that most businesses are built on a set of assumptions that need to be validated or invalidated, once you also have that most education can be bifurcated into either just in time or just in case, it gives you a different perspective now to look at what it is that you're learning. I'm just testing to see what my range is here. And whether or not you're focusing on the right things. Does that hopefully that makes sense, right? That by recognizing, let's see here. All right. So let's see. Yeah, it's when you turn your head, your face reflects the light back into the camera and causes it to change. Oh, is that what's going on? Like maybe there's certain parts of my head that are brighter. Like, I don't know. Try using a manual setting. Yeah, I will. Just-in-time learning makes total sense to me, like just-in-time inventory. Right. Can we watch how you make a video you are about to record? If I was going to record the video, you would. I'm going to do it another time, I think. Cool. Just-in-time learning is more efficient in my experience, but also not as fun. Yeah, certainly can be, right? Yeah, left and down a bit to go convert. Got it. No, just stay in the center. Anyway, so that just in time, right, versus just in case learning is a distinction that I helped introduce, right? There is Pareto's law, right? The 80-20 and the 80 and the 80 the 20% of the 20%, which is now a 4% 96, right? And then using that as a filter, like what really are the needle movers here and what are all the trivial many? I find that most people who are overworked and less effective tend to be pretty bad at identifying what are the trivial many as opposed to the vital few, right? The vital few being the 20% that causes 80% of the results, the trivial many being the 80% that causes the 20%. So, and once again, right, it's one thing to understand and know the concept. It's a whole nother thing to have that as a distinction that you embody, so that when you look out in the world, like, it is an obvious thing that comes up for you. That is not part of the, that's not part of the that's part of the trivial many. That's not part of the vital few, right? So it becomes an operating way um of identifying what you should focus on, right? Another thing is, right, like, for me, since my definition of leadership is making see, there you go. Leadership is making a future happen that wasn't going to happen anyway, right? So first thing is, what is the default future that we're headed towards? Because if that's a good one, no leadership is needed. Management maybe, but not any leadership. But where are we currently headed if nothing changes? If that's a bad place, then leadership is needed, right? And specifically around what? So this is a very fluid thing. I mean, but I think the first step, and I think we're hopefully we're all there at this point, is to recognize that we could all be looking at a business and we would all notice different things. And based on what we would notice, that would determine what set of options we see in front of us for growing that business. There is no one who would see all the options. We would each see some number. My point is that with more distinctions, you see more possibilities. And it's what allowed for the internet gurus that first dominated the online space. That's what allowed us to do it. And it's what allows, in any game of business, it separates the winners from the losers, because the winners take actions, the losers don't. More often than not, the losers don't even know that they were possible, because they didn't see them, because they didn't have the distinctions. So I wanted to go over a whole bunch of distinctions with you today from my Evernote, but we'll have to do that on Thursday. So with that said, I am just happy and thankful that those of you that are here were here, that you chose to spend your time with me today. I downloaded another book that's very much in this area. I haven't read it yet. I can share that book with you, though. So I can, hold on a second. I need to get my other mouse here. But I haven't read it yet, but it did look really good. This book is called, hold on, I'm opening it right now. It's called The Reality Illusion: How You Make the World You Experience. And like I said, I haven't read it, so I can't say whether it's good or bad, but it's The Reality Illusion: How You Make the World Your Experience by Ralph Strauch, Strauch. Yeah, this looks really interesting. Interesting. I wrote The Reality Illusion 30 years ago when the concept it explores were relatively new to me and still being formed. They led to a major reorientation of my career and my life, and have been evolving ever since. My understanding of these concepts and their implications have deepened over time, and it's certainly richer and more sophisticated now than it was then. But reading this book again now and looking back, I'm heartened by the depth of my understanding then and how well it has held up through the intervening years. Oh, cool. Awesome. I'm looking forward to reading that book. And so, yep. So thanks for being here. I'll move over so that I get brighter for a second. Thanks for being here. Oh, that could also be like, maybe it's just like, because I changed the monitors, I changed that. Something is made everything screwy. But I do appreciate that you guys were here. I appreciate that I hope you got value from what we talked about tonight. I know it wasn't like, I didn't get as far as I wanted to get to, and that's because of my problems with Evernote, but I will get that resolved for sure before Tuesday as I brighten back up. And just want to wish everyone a wonderful weekend. I want to wish Matt, and I want everyone from Strategic Profits to wish Matt a speedy recovery from his operation tomorrow. And for those of you in the Infinity Funnel, I will be answering your questions tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to that a lot. And then I'm also really looking forward to the Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler fight, as well as the Valentina fight, as well as the Volkanovski's fight. So lots of great fights this weekend, all on UFC. So I'm super excited about that. And so I'll see everyone on Tuesday. To Higher Profits Beyond, Rich Sheffrin, over and out.